Hey Chris, I was going to make a tutorial and just have it be a video on my YouTube channel showing you how to get going with Plex server in a Docker container on your NAS, even though you're using separate shared media folders for a movie library and a TV show library. But I didn't see this on my phone. This stops me dead. You've got this set up for your downloads to go into the Docker container, which is a huge no-no. You don't want any of that happening. Let me show you what you want to have happening. I'm on my older Synology NAS, and again, you want one shared media folder. It can be called anything, lowercase. If you want a good trash guide setup, you're going to have to reconfigure everything and just scrap it. And if you're going to do that, you might as well move your libraries too. So you want one shared media folder, and it doesn't have to be named like I have it. Let me bring up my file manager. I'm actually onto that NAS now, and I use these sort folders so I can have multiple Plex libraries. A nested setup is nice, but inside the shared media folder, alongside my sort folders for each library type, is a folder to use for your incoming acquisitions. I name mine sob nzbd on my real server. And what this does, this allows what the trash guides call atomic moves. You can test this out on your computer if you have two different hard drives. If you move a large file from one hard drive to another subfolder on that same hard drive, that's an instantaneous move. The only thing that really changes is the location of that media file gets updated. It really doesn't move on the hard drive. The file stays where it is. Now, if you move that to another hard drive, it's actually a slow copy and delete function. The data has to be recreated at the new location, and once it's recreated fully, the original data is erased. So that move from one drive to another is a copy and delete function, where within the same hard drive, it's simply an updating of where the file is located. The file doesn't really move. Well, the same thing happens on a Synology NAS. Anything in this shared media folder or this shared folder, if I move a file from this structure over to this structure, it's instantaneous. It happens in the blink of an eye. If I move a large file from within this shared folder any place to another shared folder, it's that slow copy and delete action that happens. Now, I'm going to post this publicly on my YouTube channel, so I just don't show anything to do with the trash guide setup besides suggesting good library structure. So let's go to my other newer Synology NAS. So in this one, I'm using the example of a simple shared media folder called media. I have a sort folder for every type of Plex library folder. It almost doesn't make sense to name the music one music libraries, because chances are people aren't going to have multiple music libraries. So this one could just be named music and not music-libraries, and it would just hold all your music media. All right, so now we're on the newer Synology NAS, and I have a mock-up here also. I have a Media PD shared folder on the first volume and a Media PD2 shared folder on the second volume. If I click into it, it's the same thing. I'm using the same structure, movie-libraries, but now the music library is just named music because this is a music library and not a sort folder library. Let's enter the TV library sort folder. This allows me to have a nested structure and to point a regular TV series library from Plex at this structure. And notice everything is lowercase with no spaces, including the shared media folder name. When you get into the actual library folder, you return to uppercases and spaces, and everything is compliantly named with my advanced filebot expressions to add media characteristics. So this enables you to have multiple libraries, a kids library, an anime library if you want, and even a separate DVR library if you're using that function in Plex to not mix in content with commercials into your commercial-free libraries. Now, I don't show the trash guide stuff, but I do talk about them. And I'll talk about Sonar on YouTube. When you set Sonar up, it's very easy to set up one instance of Sonar to use multiple root paths to pull media for different TV show libraries. So if say you've got little kids and you want Sonar to collect content for a kids TV show library, well, all the Docker containers have to worry about is either pointing at this level or this level. You can do it either way. My setup, it points at the shared library folder level. So that way, Sonar, when you add a show, you get to pick whether the show gets added to this structure or that structure. And it works for Radar too, even though I don't run Radar myself. But let's go into the shared media folder for the movies. So one instance of Radar can pull for a main movie library, a kids movie library, a DVR movie library, and a documentary movie library, and maybe even concert library, a stand-up library. The only thing it can't pull extra for is a 4K movie library, unless only those movies are going into the 4K library. If you want Radar to pull the same movie for two different libraries, that's impossible with one instance of Radar. You'd have to set up a separate instance of Radar just for the 4K library. But one instance of Radar, just like Sonar, can feed multiple libraries as long as one movie only goes into one or the other library. So this is why it's worth scrapping what you've got set up and starting from fresh. The atomic moves is a huge benefit. That's the main benefit. But being able to pull for multiple libraries is fantastic. So you've got Sonar downloads inside the you've got it inside your Docker folder. So I don't know, at least it's not going in the container folder, but it doesn't belong in the Docker shared media folder. And then down here you've got Radar downloads, and then you've got Sonar downloads, and then you have SOB NZBD. Well, again, this should be lowercase. Everything should be lowercase involving Docker containers. And back up here, Media PD. I don't have a subfolder here called SOB NZBD, but that's where I put it. So let's go to my actual Plex structure, which is just named very simply. It's not explicit like my other examples. I've simply named my Plex shared media folder Plex. And I have a sort library folder simply named movie. Inside that sort subfolder are my actual Plex library folders. And of course I have a library folder called movie that then has all my data in it. And I don't know why. Whenever I run OBS Studios, my access to my NAS slows down. I just don't know why. So let me do that again. Well, let me use a smaller library. Let me use the 4K library. So this is the structure. The shared media folder called Plex, lowercase, no spaces. Name it anything you want. Then you go into a sort folder for movie libraries, and then you go into the specific movie library that Plex points to, and then you name things appropriately. All my movies have the TMDB ID number to them, and because I have a Plex Pass, I also add in the Edition 4K at this level, so it scans in properly. And this way, if I have this same movie in my main movie library, and I start either version, I only have the one that pops up that I'm actually watching and continue watching. If you have the same movie in different libraries, you'll have both show up and continue watching because Plex doesn't know which one you want to continue watching. So anyway, this structure is the key. You just have to change, and you don't have to use my examples, but I am going to suggest that using, where am I going to back up further? Using, where am I? Let me just start fresh. Using something obvious like media. And PD just stands for media public domain because that's what's on this test server. Using something easy like media, like I do on my older Synology NAS, is the way to go. So this would just be renamed SAB-NZBD, and you just configure your Trash Guides Docker containers to use all that path stuff. So while I'm on the subject, I'm going to go into the Marius Hosting website, or I'm already there. Now, with your setup, you have a Synology NAS with an AMD processor. So you do not need hardware acceleration. So Marius shows Plex guides for the new Ugreen NAS, how to install it on a Synology NAS with hardware accelerated transcoding. You can't do that through Container Manager. You can't do that with a scheduled task. You need to use Portainer to do that, but that's not your case. You can use his scheduled task option. This is very easy. And once you get your folder structure set up, I could run through a video for you showing you how to get this set up. But as wonderful as these guides are by Marius, he really kind of sucks at giving examples for his paths. So he never explains any of this, but he kind of leads people down the wrong path. So this is physical structure on your Synology NAS, everything before the colon. Everything after the colon is the virtual structure. And let me show you that with one of my test servers. So I'll go to that older Synology NAS, and I'll go to a library. And let's see here. Let's go to the movie library, and I'll enter the advanced settings. Oh, sorry, folder level. So this is my alias, my Plex Media. And this is the actual real structure below the shared media folder that this is an alias for. So if we get a text document going, and let me paste in my alias. So let me paste this in. So he shows you how to find your PUID and PGID. Mine were exactly the same as his. I can show you an example how to set the time zone up. I'm in New York in America, so that's pretty easy. Everything else stays the same except for this path statement. And this makes you think it's just for a movie library. Again, it's just all bad. So let me add this down here. So I would adjust the time. You check the PUID and PGID and add your numbers in if they're different. You can adjust the name of the Plex Docker if you wanted to call it something else like this. You do it there. And let me show you how to fix this structure. Let me get rid of my server. So let me use DSM instead. All right, so it all starts with a Docker container. So this is the config file. Volume 1 is right because my containers are running on my main volume. Docker is right, that's a match. You see how it's all lowercase? And then Plex is a match. That's what the container's named. Everything after that's virtual. So he has you just doing this normal. Well, this is all wrong for most people. You need a shared media folder called web. Inside that shared media folder, you need a folder called movies. But what about your TV shows? Why point the containers at a subfolder called movies? Just point it at the shared media folder called web, and then have your structure inside that shared media folder, just like I have it inside media. So based on my setup, let's take this and move it down. Based on my setup, I'm just going to change this to media. That covers everything. And then if I do this, paste my own alias in, from within Plex, I'm going to see Plex Media. We'll do that again. No matter what library I'm doing, under the folders, when I browse, this alias comes up, and that leads to my shared folder called media, and I can see everything in it. You don't need multiple path statements. You do not need a separate path statement for a Plex movie library, a Plex music library, a Plex TV show library, a photo or another video library. You can set it up that way if you want. The container doesn't care if you have separate path statements. All you need is the one path statement to one shared media folder where all your media is. And you can organize it neatly like my nested structure, or inside this level, you can have everything just on the same level, a flat structure. But the more libraries you add, the more sense it makes to have a nested structure. Instead of having 15 subfolders under media, you can just have 6. You can have your SOB NZBD folder and your 5 library sort folders. And when you're looking for a particular TV show library folder, you go into the sort folder and it's right there. Neat and organized. But so you've got to change your structure. You're losing out on atomic moves. If you want radar or sonar to pull from multiple movie libraries, which they're both very capable of, you're missing out on that ease of operation. And Marius Hosting website is a great website for all of this once you understand the path statements. And let's do this. Let's go to Docker and let's find SOB NZBD. Again, I don't mind talking about this stuff, but I really just don't want to show the setups of it on my Plex support channel. All right, I don't know. Let me do it this way. Let me search. Okay, how to install it on your Synology NAS. Let's click into this. And again, this is going to be a scheduled task. I think it's a scheduled task. Okay, so right off the bat, he's showing you how to create a Docker container folder for SOB, but he's including downloads and incomplete inside the container structure. It's just weird. So this would be what you'd use. This is what needs to be fixed. So let's fix that in this video. Okay, I'm not copying it right. Let's do this. Actually, let's bring up a word processor. That'll be better. Okay, so this needs to be adjusted. Actually, I don't like this. So you can tell I'm not a professional YouTuber because I don't script anything out. All right, let's copy it into something without any refinement. Let's make this bigger so we can see it. So you'll have to find your actual PUID and PGID numbers yourself. You'll also have to insert your own time zone. And this is what needs to be changed. Let's make this a little bit smaller so everything stays on one line. So these two statements have to be changed. All right, so let's use my example again. Let's use my example from my actual, well, we'll just use this example. But I don't want to use it here. I'm confusing myself now. I want to use it from here, just as it is. Let's copy this. So this is real structure. So down here, we're going to change this to that. That's real structure. We're going to change this to something that makes sense. Just call it what it is. And then this, we're going to also get it out of the Docker container. So everything before the colon is real structure. So I'm using that same folder. And this would have a complete, an incomplete, and a watched NZBD folder in it. So let's get rid of this. And let's call that maybe that. So now that makes sense. That is, oh no, I borked this. Sorry, I borked this. Let's fix that. So this would have to be media, and this would have to be media. All right, so now we're referencing real structure that I have an example of. It's in the media shared folder on volume 1. It's in this acquisition folder if using star apps. Boom, boom, boom. So that's how you set the container up, and all of his containers need to have the same adjustment. Let's go see what paths he uses with Sonar. If only Marius showed a good working folder structure that supported the atomic moves of a Trash Guides install, to then use that example that people can copy to then follow his container paths, this would be so much easier. All right, what am I looking for? I'm looking for how to do it with a scheduled task. Did I miss it while I was talking? All right, so Sonar can be installed as a package. I wouldn't recommend it. You can install it with Portainer, and you should be able to do it as a scheduled task. Well, I'm not seeing it. Well, that changes it. It's not hard to do with Portainer, but you have to install Portainer first and follow his guide, which I don't think you have to adjust any path statements because Portainer's just operating within the Docker shared media folder. Let's see if this... Well, so I can use his path statements from the Portainer install as something similar. So this is a poor guide too because he's putting Sonar downloads into the container folder. It just doesn't make sense. So again, whether it's a scheduled task or Portainer, you're still using these same references. So this is good. This is bad. Let me see if I can show you how my path is set up for Sonar. I just didn't want to show anything from my quick sync when that was starting up. So if I go into Docker, I go into containers, and I find Sonar. Okay, so I've got volume 1 Plex sob NZBD complete, and I'm just calling it complete inside the container because I know complete means sob. The config goes inside the Sonar Docker container folder structure. And then my Plex TV show library is referenced, well, nope, sorry, not my TV show library. This is the sort folder for my TV show libraries, which on my system I've simply named TV. I've given that the alias of Sonar Media. So let me go to my folder structure of my regular NAS. Okay, so simply named shared folder Plex, simply named sort folder named TV, and inside that are my regular TV show libraries. So if we are calling this location, which is this location here, simply Sonar Media, that allows my install of Sonar to add shows to multiple root folders, which is Kids TV and just plain TV. So Sonar can pull for both libraries as long as it's not pulling the same show. I really wish I could find Marius's setup for Sonar. Let's see if we can search it. All right, so this is the scheduled task install. So you can set this up without using Portainer too. And you just have to fix these paths. So one of these leads to the sob NZB download folder and one leads to your media. And he doesn't even make that very clear, but this one leads to your media. So in my case, let me bring up the word processor again. So all these path statements are all pretty much the same. So we'll make this one match my real structure. Okay, we can use the structure of the old Synology NAS. Actually, I don't want to do that. Take these. Okay, so this has got to be your shared media folder. And on my older Synology NAS, it's simply media. So I would suggest naming it this and having that inside this media folder. But I can use this name if I want. Well, let's just keep this. So this is for sonar only. So let's do complete. Sonar needs to see the complete folder once the media comes in. And I would just suggest calling this complete. That's what it's referenced inside the Docker container. Now this needs to go to your actual library structure. So again, we're in a shared media folder called media, but we're not in the sob nzbd subfolder. We're in, well, if it's my regular structure, it's TV for the sort folder. If it's the test Synology NAS, it's TV libraries, I think. And that is all we need. We can get rid of this other junk. And now the alias, I called something easily recognizable like Sonar Media. So you'll see that when you're in Sonar as your path, and you'll instantly recognize it as leading to this sort library structure. I know this is all pretty much confusing. And Chris, this is why once you get your structure set, I can help you with the path statements, one scheduled task at a time. The first thing is to get your Plex server using your new media folder, which, let's go back to Synology DSM. So once you get everything in something simple, maybe just call it media. Make it easy on yourself. I do recommend this structure because you know what you're looking at. It's not confusing. My own structure of a movie sort folder within a movie subfolder for a library folder, and it is a little confusing. And this is just self-explanatory. So get your media set up this way. You don't have to wreck your Plex server. This is the last thing I'll show. If you're in Plex, go into the settings, the library under settings, and turn off all your automatic scanning. Scan it periodically, turn off the automatic emptying of the trash can, and save it. So then once your media, you can have it exist in two places at once, or you can just shut down Plex server at this point, shut the process down, move your media to the new folder structure, and then when you start Plex back up, nothing will scan automatically and lose your custom metadata. So then go into the libraries and one at a time, edit them, and remove the old path and go find the new path. So here's my alias for the Plex Docker container. Plex Media is the alias that leads on this server to the shared media folder called Media. and then I just see everything in it. So my Plex media references the real folder, shared folder of media. Once I'm there, I see all that structure. And I can go into the movie libraries, click on my documentary subfolder or actual library folder, click add, and as soon as I do it, well, there's no changes because it's not a new path, but as soon as I add the new path, Plex will scan the library. You'll see a trash can appear and disappear on all your posters, and you won't lose any custom metadata. So I know this is getting long and rambly, but this is a fabulous resource to get the container spun up, but an awful resource to understand paths and how they should be set up. And everything references the atomic moves for a trash guides install. If you go there and look at their structure, you'll find it's very similar to mine. I think they use one shared media folder called data, and then they break things up, but they do not give the example of using multiple library folders inside a sort library folder. Their instructions are wonderful, but it assumes you're only going to have radar or sonar pull for a single movie or TV show library, and my more refined structure allows a single instance of radar to pull from multiple libraries, or a single instance of sonar to pull from multiple series libraries, and a single instance of radar to pull from multiple movie libraries. Again, with a caveat that you can't pull the same movie into two separate libraries. If you want a 4K movie library, you'll have to have a separate instance of radar just for those movies. All right, so this is really long. I'm going to get this onto YouTube. And Chris, buddy, I will help you out, but I can't help you with this poor setup, unfortunately. And I've covered these past statements in other videos, but I don't think I've ever had one specifically addressing how to fix structure in order to support a trash guide setup and to easily install containers, whether it's under a Synology NAS or under RAID, or even I've used all these same principles on a test install under Debian with Plex running in a Docker container. It's all the same. I don't care if you're using Portainer on a Synology NAS or Debian or Ubuntu. It just doesn't matter. The path statements are all the path statements. Everything before the colon is real path. Everything after it is the alias you see when you're in that service running in a container. All right, so let me know if this is helpful. Sorry it's so long, but it is what it is. Happy Plexing.